All it took was a few extra days off for the Chicago Bears to come out on Monday Night Football like a completely different team and manhandle the New England Patriots in primetime. We'll look at how they were able to be so much more consistent, so much more on top of things, and where we should then set our expectations from here.
You are Locked On Bears, your daily Chicago Bears podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Bears, and I'm your host, Lorin Cox. I'm here to bring you your daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. You can follow me on Twitter at CoxSports1. You can follow the podcast on Twitter at Locked On Bears. You can like Locked On Bears on Facebook. Join the Locked On Bears Facebook group for even more Bears talk. And make sure you hit that subscribe button on the Locked On Bears YouTube channel to keep up with all of our video podcasts as well. Thanks for making Locked On Bears your first listen today, and hopefully every single day. On the show today, we're going to go through just a brand new looking Chicago Bears team. Same players, but just everything seemed to work in a way that we haven't seen this season. We'll go through so many of the things that were working well, including another strong game from Justin Fields, maybe the most complete from start to finish game we've seen from Justin Fields up to this point, as well as Ryan Poles' rookie class really stepping up, showing out, and settling in as important pieces of the team, not only this year, but looking like long-term, big-time contributors for this franchise. It's kind of baffling how well the Bears turned things around in such a short period of time. When two Thursdays ago on another primetime game against a bad Washington Commanders team, the Bears looked just incompetent. They looked insufferable. I mean, the game was brutal. They couldn't put points on the board. The defense played pretty well, but it was a rock bottom type feeling of, wow, you just lost to the Washington Commanders. And how many more games are the Bears going to win this season? Certainly, they didn't stand a chance against the New England Patriots. I mean, the Patriots were 9-point favorites. I think they were 9 points on BetOnline was where the line was mostly hovering around. They didn't stand a chance. Everybody in the pregame show picked the Patriots to win. Of course, I picked the Patriots to win. I bet you weren't super keen on the Bears pulling an upset there too, but they were just firing on all cylinders. I mean, they came out field goal on that opening drive, and things were sort of clicking and peeling off pretty well, and the defense was holding down Mac Jones pretty early there, and things were rocking and rolling. And certainly the way the game ended, you felt like, wow, the Bears absolutely dominated this game. But let me ask you this, just between you and I, we're just going to touch on this for 30 seconds, then we'll move on. When the Patriots climb back, score a touchdown, Bears go 3 and out, and the offense kind of sputters. They had a missed pass and just kind of a really messy drive. And then the Patriots score again, and Bailey Zappi is named the next Tom Brady, and the second Patriots dynasty is beginning, and the Bears losing again. Did you have that feeling in your stomach of like, oh no, that I know this feeling. All that 10-0 lead fun has completely vanished. And, is this back to the same old thing we've seen all season? Is this game spiraling back out of control? I live bet the Bears money line when they had the lead there and got plus 120 on it. And I was like, oh crap. There goes that, right? All of a sudden that feeling sinks back in, that familiar blowing up whatever hot start you had in the game. And yet this Bears team persevered. This Bears team didn't let it spiral. This Bears team didn't forget the magic they had started in the first quarter, didn't get away from some of the things that were working successfully. They stuck with it, and they controlled the game. And that's what felt so revelatory, so much progress, right? Is that, the Bears have had those stretches this season where they'll put together a really strong quarter, and you're like, wow, this team's pretty good. But then they just can't keep it up for whatever reason. They implode on offense, or the defense has some kind of big lapse. Like we saw the Bears have the big lapse on the Jacoby Myers touchdown. And you're like, oh, there it is. Play action burned them, and they're toast again. You felt that feeling, that imploding feeling. And they persevered. They stayed in it and kept pushing through. I thought, the offensive line was good enough. It was passable. There were times when it was not very good, but there were times when Fields had time to throw in the pocket. I thought the quarterback run game was obviously a big factor, and we'll get more specifically on Justin Fields' day in just a little bit here. But I thought overall, the key to the offensive consistency was you just had fewer of those plays where, they go for 0 or negative yards. Fewer of those plays where just something gets messed up. The kind of plays that tend to feel more like the Bears beating themselves than the other team really beating them. Those handoffs that go for 0 yards, or the plays where Justin Fields slips and takes a sack when it's kind of the turf monster get him, or the play when, David Montgomery fumbles the ball and has to pick it up, like he did in that game, but was able to get something out of it, right? It wasn't a big loss. They weren't in nearly as many. There were some, it was not perfect, but not as many 3rd and long type situations. There weren't as many penalties on the Bears offense, putting them in some of those 3rd and long situations. And then you add in all the turnovers the defense was providing. And I thought the Bears pass rush looked more aggressive, more active, more involved, higher energy in this game. It wasn't like they were individually, like the defensive line, sacking Jones and Zappi all the time. But what I really liked was how much more often it seemed like they were getting their hands up and batting passes. There were a lot of batted passes in both directions in this game. But I was encouraged by this pass rush making an impact even when it wasn't always directly just sacks. Like, they got sacks on a couple of blitzes, which, is part of the process here, but there was also just like activity from that defensive line that I thought really went a long way for this team. It was such like a complete Chicago Bears performance that we've been kind of waiting for to come together. Now, I don't think it's sustainable for them to play that good every single week, in the same sense that it wasn't going to be sustainable for them to play that bad against the Washington Commanders every single week, right? The real Bears team is somewhere in the middle. The question is, which of those two, polar opposites is it closer to? And the test doesn't get much easier next week against the Dallas Cowboys, and the schedule really doesn't lighten up for quite some time, because all of a sudden, like, the Jets are a good team and the Falcons are looking more threatening than they did on paper. So it doesn't get easier for the Bears, but beating a team like the Patriots can go a long way toward building their confidence, especially that of Justin Fields, who just had, I thought, a really, really well played, smart game. It wasn't like he lit up for 300 yards or anything, but generally speaking, took care of the football and made good decisions. And of course, was the same dynamic athlete we knew he could be with his legs. We'll go through what we saw from Justin Fields in terms of progress and where this kind of tracks on his quarterback development next on Locked On Bears. Now, a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp. BetterHelp is here to help reduce the stigma on mental health treatment, because so many of us are struggling behind the scenes. You don't let other people know. A lot of people feel alone in their struggles, but you feel that stigma about talking about mental health or doing something about your mental health. Then, like, you have to be tough and push through it. But online therapy with BetterHelp can be here to help you be better. You don't even have to be in, crisis mode, life falling apart type of feeling. This isn't, just any kind of self-help type of situation. Like, this is convenient online therapy that's accessible and affordable. You get matched with a therapist after filling out an online, or just like a brief survey online, and they make it really easy to switch therapists at any time if you're still working to find the right person to be the right fit for you. The same way that you got to take care of your body, you have to take care of your mind, and BetterHelp is here to do it. So when you want to be a better problem solver, therapy can get you there. Visit BetterHelp.com/locked on to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/locked on. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Millions of people are on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. I bet you might be on LinkedIn. Or if you're not, you know a lot of people that are on LinkedIn. So you can add your job, and then they have simple tools like screening questions that make it really easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience, so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rank LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus their leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. This might have been one of the more complete games we saw from Justin Fields, in addition to a complete game we saw from the Bears offense and the Bears team as a whole. The stat line, if you didn't watch the game, right, if you were someone who just checked the box score and said, okay, 13-21, 179 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 85 passer rating. Like that on its own in a vacuum is not, out of this world impressive. Certainly you have to add in the 14 rushes for a team high 82 yards rushing and a touchdown on the ground. That's an important factor in this, but I do think outside of Chicago, people are going to have trouble amassing the full Justin Fields evaluation. We don't know how to value quarterback running as well as we know how to value quarterback passing. But even in the passing in this game, right, we saw Fields, his interception again comes on one of these batted passes where it's like he's making the right decision with the ball. He's got an open receiver and he's, presumably throwing it. We don't know if it's how on target it's going to be, but he's aiming at an open receiver and the ball gets tipped. It changes the flight path of the ball. It no longer goes where the quarterback intended to go and is intercepted. And it's like, well, it's not really Fields' fault. He got away with later, I think was it before or after that interception, one that he threw too far behind Darnell Mooney. He was rolling out. Mooney was running a crossing route, and he needs to put it in front of Mooney, and it was more on Mooney's body. And so the cornerback had a chance to recover and got 2 hands on the ball and probably should have intercepted it. So those 2 plays kind of balanced out. The actual interception, not his fault, but also got away with a play that probably should have been an interception that would have been his fault. So that's really the main downside from the entire performance. There was a couple of those plays where he's throwing a quick ball to the flat. One was on a wide receiver screen. One was on an RPO that he just missed. Inaccurate pass on those easy throws. And we've seen those from Justin Fields. And it's easy to just say wet ball. It was kind of a rainy, foggy, kind of muggy evening in Foxborough. But if you watch those plays, watch his feet, the base that he's throwing from underneath. He's not dropping. They're quick throws, so it's not a regular drop back, but he's not properly setting his feet and stepping into the throws. His feet are all over the place. They're set up wide. They're not aimed toward the receiver at all. And I think that's why you see the accuracy issue there, because he's not comfortable in those sort of quick turn decision type throws. But there were so many times in this game when he dropped back into the pocket, had a second to finish his hitch and scan the field and get all the way from right to left and then throw to the third or fourth receiver in his progression. Like he's winning and finding open receivers and making good throws in the ways that are most sustainable to quarterback success, right? Of course, you love when he scrambles out of the pocket when there's pressure, the play collapses and looks downfield and finds a receiver. Those are great plays. Those are not plays you can necessarily build an entire offense around, as we've seen for the first 6 weeks of this regular season. But we saw in this game more of those standard types of plays where it's like doesn't have all day, but has a couple of seconds, doesn't have to just throw it away right away because there's pressure every single time. And you could see him go through a progression and see the field well and be decisive and make some of those really nice throws that they're not all highlight reel 25, 40-yard dimes downfield, but it's just like, it's the plays that they're not easy, but they're not difficult, right? They're sort of like the more routine intermediate plays. It's the ones that go for 5 to 15 yards. It's the 10-yard completion or the 11-yard completion on 3rd and 10, right? It's the 12 yards on 2nd and 7, where it's like, it's not a neat thread of needle tight window play, but it's like sustainable building upon offense, confidence building, in rhythm quarterbacking. It felt like Justin Fields was in rhythm as a passer from play to play to play. There were times when the pocket collapses and he has to scramble and he becomes a runner, but it didn't fully disrupt his rhythm all that often. And I think a lot of it had to do with what we were talking about earlier, where the Bears were better on 1st and 2nd down, to not leave him in these 3rd and long situations where you can't just take what's there, right? You're looking for something a little bit bigger, a little bit better. There's more pressure. The defense knows what you're doing. They're dropping back. He was able to be in more manageable situations, so he could just let the game come to him and not have to press and be the hero on those plays every single time. And it wasn't like it was consistently pocket breaking down. It seemed like they were spread out enough that it wasn't like back to back getting in his head. Like there'd be a play where the pressure would be there. He'd have to run, pick up the 1st down. But in the next couple of passes in a row, he's able to deliver more cleanly, right? And then and then maybe there's another play that breaks down, but he could always sort of get back into that rhythm because the Bears were sustaining these drives. They weren't these 3 and outs where he's just never able to get things rolling forward in the positive direction, and stack these plays together. And you got to give the running game some credit for helping with that. Certainly the defense for keeping them, ahead on the scoreboard and generating those turnovers to give the Bears the ball back with good field position. And also the Bears using the design quarterback running game to let Fields make some plays, get some juice. Even if he's not making the plays as a passer on those plays, he's still picking up first downs. He's energized. He's having fun. He's moving the chains. The offense is staying alive to, again, help him stay in rhythm because you get more plays on these longer, sustained, successful drives that the Bears had. Even when they were ending in field goals, it was still rhythm passing from Justin Fields. And the one play that I need to make sure we highlight here that was a super savvy, important play that Fields made. The touchdown pass to Khalil Herbert, right? Behind the line of scrimmage, any quarterback can throw a behind the line of scrimmage screen to a fast player who runs untouched into the end zone. Yes. But that was the second time they ran that play. The first time, batted pass. The second time, Fields pump fakes the unblocked pass rusher, I think it was Judon, jumps to try and bat it a second time, and then Fields shifts his body and his arm angle around the leaping pass rusher to get the ball to Khalil Herbert in space and sets up the touchdown. Like, that's to have that processing, like we talk a lot about Fields' processing in terms of reading a coverage, but to make that decision that fast, right? Pass rusher's coming. He's good. Like, this is all in less than 2 seconds. It's free rusher. He's going to bat the pass. Let me pump fake. Let me change my arm angle. Let me throw. Let me get the ball in there. To register that all so quickly and make that adjusted arm angle throw is the kind of thing that you hear announcers rave about veteran quarterbacks doing. And yes, it's a screen pass. Yes, it's not a difficult throw, quote unquote, but it's a really smart play from Fields that shows how advanced he is as a quarterback. And I think you come away from a game like this very encouraged about what he was able to do. You have to be encouraged about what a bunch of the rookies did in this game, too. Really a strong showing from Ryan Poles' draft class, at least some of the guys at the top and the middle of that draft class. So we'll kind of go through an update on these rookies and how it's making the general manager start to look smart after everyone was beckoning for George Pickens all week on social media. Next on Locked On Bears. The Locked On Bears podcast is brought to you by our friends at PrizePicks, the better way to do daily fantasy sports, because unlike other types of daily fantasy, this is putting you in control. There's no competing against other people. It's just you versus the house. You pick 2 to 5 players, and if they'll score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, and you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry, not just for Bears games, but any football game, basketball, baseball, soccer, hockey, tennis, all of the college sports and beyond. It's super easy. It's a lot of fun. You can make your entry in just 60 seconds or less. Download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 when you use our promo code LOCKEDON. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will give you $50. Don't forget to enter that promo code LOCKED ON at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. Really a strong showing from most of this Bears rookie class. You're never going to get certainly all of the rookies in there, and there's one notable exception here that we'll get to. But, there was a lot of this talk on Twitter, and when you watch the Steelers play on the last 2 Sundays or the last 2 weekends, I don't remember if they were all Sunday games, and George Pickens, the wide receiver in the second round out of Georgia, makes some nice catches, and it's like, oh man, many people were saying the Bears should have drafted George Pickens. Why did they draft these 2 defensive backs? Pickens clearly looks like a first-round talent at wide receiver, and XYZ, that Ryan Poles messed up, should have drafted, blah, 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 right? Or there's other players you could start to second guess. Not hearing any of that after the performance we saw in this game. I mean, you have the beautiful one-handed catch interception by Jaquan Brisker early on in that game. Just an individual player reading a play perfectly, aggressive, attacking, reacting quickly, right? Not second-guessing himself, not, oh, should I wait? Should I not go after the ball? Should I just stay and make the play on the receiver? Goes and gets the ball, understands the situation, the coverage, where his teammates would be if he doesn't get the ball, right? And just makes a great play. And that's a playmaker instinct type play of just him being a potential difference maker at safety. I think they broke it down on the broadcast where it was like a cover 3 cloud, where it kind of looks like a cover 2, but you rotate the safety over and it's more like a 3 deep look, but you have sort of an underneath defender instead of a flat defender instead of more of a seam defender on that side of the field. And so it becomes a different read for Mac Jones. I think it was Mac Jones at that time. And Brisker makes a great play and just, continues to play strong. He hits hard. He makes rookie mistakes, and he has certainly had his share of them over the season. But man, does he look like he's settling in, and he and Eddie Jackson are such a dynamic duo in that safety position. And then Kyler Gordon, the one who was picked on, who had for a lot of games this season, who the Packers went after over and over and over again. And we wondered, would it shake his confidence? Is it going to be a long development process for him? We saw last week against the Commanders, things were picking up a little bit for him. And then this week, great interception where it wasn't a one-hander, but he did use one hand to tip it back to himself to then intercept it, and thought he was going to house it on that one. I mean, really, got a head of steam in front of him. And I don't know, is it a little embarrassing that he got caught on that play? It looked like he just kind of was gassed, but certainly not nitpicking and critical of him, but it's just kind of funny that, you thought he was going to take that one absolutely all the way. But a great read, again, attacking the ball. It's one of those plays that, if you miss that, the guy's going to catch the ball and probably have some real space in front of them. You have to know when to go after the ball and when to play the wide receiver. But Gordon was able to sort of trust his own skill set to know, can I get this ball or can I not get this ball? And made a great play on it, bobbled to himself, showed off some good hands in trying to really secure that after the tip back to himself. And it's just, it's smart football from another draft pick who's playing better and better and looking more and more consistent in coverage this week, making some nice plays in run defense as well. And it's like those two guys really starting to make Ryan Poles look pretty good. Again, we're not going to overreact to one game, one really good game for both of them. They'll have more lowlights in the future, and they'll have more highlights in the future too. It's a development process. It's not always constantly improving. It's up and down, but you want to be generally trending in the positive direction. And through the first 7 games of this season, they definitely are trending in that direction for sure, and making Ryan Poles look smart for going back-to-back defensive backs in the second round when Bears fans were clamoring for wide receiver and offensive tackle. The wide receiver that they did take, not yet giving you the return that you'd like, and especially with him being such an older rookie, you thought that Velus Jones might be able to contribute a little bit more quickly than he has up to this point. And we're not going to spend a lot of time after a win, expressing our concerns over what he's done and not done so far this season. But in this game, he played 13 snaps. That was the least of any of the 5 wide receivers. It was Mooney, Brown. Harry played more than Pettis, which was nice to see Harry kind of quickly get back up to speed and play in this game. But 13 snaps for Velus Jones, and only 4 of them were routes that he ran down the field. He still seems to be very slow getting into the offense. So that's something to keep an eye on there. But, benched from the kick return duties as well. Pettis muffed one, but then had a really big return on the other one. So that was escaping some things. But then Dominique Robinson, right, got some really good pressure on Bailey Zappi and I think Mac Jones as well, but was the batted pass on the Roquan Smith's interception, I think. And I think he might have got his hand on 1 or 2 passes when it was all said and done. I just had the stat sheet in front of me and I lost it, but I'm going to pull it up as I'm continuing to talk here. The rookie Robinson was credited officially with just the 1 pass breakup, but he had some pressures in there on the quarterback, and he was aggressive in sometimes, flushing him out of the pocket when he's not, even though he's not making the actual sack on the play, but good energy, good hustle from him. And the Bears seem to be a little bit more consistent in terms of the run defense as well. It wasn't like they completely shut down everything the Patriots wanted to do on the running game, but Stevenson was at 3.5 yards a carry. It was, and Harris went pretty much nowhere. So it was really a much better, much improved job up front from those guys, and not just the rookies there, but just Justin Jones played better. Al-Qadim Muhammad played better. Robert Quinn, especially in that first quarter, seemed to be playing a lot better. But you look at, one other rookie I want to throw in there is Braxton Jones at left tackle. Wasn't stellar, but, the pressure was more often coming from Larry Borum's side, right? I think continuing to show progress as a young Braxton Jones. I think he had a penalty in there. I don't remember if it was a false start or something, but continuing along the way, looking more and more consistent as a left tackle. There's going to be ups and downs there, but you know what you're getting with Braxton Jones at this point. And again, comparatively, he was better in the eye test than Larry Borum, despite having a brand new left guard in Michael Schofield next to him in this game. And then, of course, they have to make the change at center because of injury, because Lucas Patrick started and then Mustafa goes back in. So despite the offensive line being in flux, you still got some pretty good play up front, and Braxton Jones seemed to be pretty good and has some nice blocks in the running game as well. So not a bad haul from the draft class in this game. You want to see more and more of that progress from those rookies, and you can be sure we'll be tracking their development all season long right here on the Locked On Bears podcast. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so you're keeping up with all of our daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. Wherever you listen to podcasts, or if you're watching along on the Locked On Bears YouTube channel, click that little bell next to the subscribe button so you're notified whenever we have a new podcast video posted up for you. Thanks for making Locked On Bears your first listen today. If you're looking for your second listen today, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. It's the biggest stories of the sports world, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day, all in 25 minutes or less. Think back to when you would watch SportsCenter in the morning as a kid to get caught up on all the previous day's sports news. This is podcast form or video form on YouTube, on demand, at your leisure, all the biggest stories in sports. Available wherever you get your podcasts, on YouTube, on the Odyssey app, you name it. Check out Locked On Sports Today. And coming back tomorrow for the next Locked On Bears. Assuming we get the All-22 film in time, I'd like to break that down tomorrow. We'll see how quickly that becomes available, but I think we should have it to kind of go back through some of the big plays from this game. And then before you know it, we'll be getting ready for the Cowboys matchup on a little bit of a shorter week. So I hope you'll tune back in all week long. And of course, every day we always leave you with that next opportunity to bear down.